For those of you confused, don't worry, I promise I know what I'm doing.
I have seen it.
Oh god, that was really sinister. But I guess it's keeping with the theme, right? So what can you do?
You have elected the way of pain!
I may not have thought this whole thing through. Welcome to the inaugural episode of One to Watch. I'm Preston, aka the Ploominator, and I'm here to take you on a short and sweet journey as we look at a single performance from a great and talented actor. But first, I want to make sure you're watching both this and my regular series of Tough Act to Follow, so make sure you help me continue to grow this channel by sharing, liking, and subscribing. I want to preface this video by saying that if you haven't watched any videos by Nando v Movies, I suggest you do. Like seriously, they're all really good. And every year he's done this one scene series, one marvelous scene about the MCU, one excellent scene about the X-Men movies, and this year, One Villainous Scene, about villains from across the cinematic spectrum. And that gave me a chance to really dive deep into a new form of video. So thanks to Nando, and like I said, if you haven't checked him out before, head on over and watch what he does. So what we're going to do is take a deep look into one of the best villainous performances in a single scene from Saruman the White, played by the great Sir Christopher Lee. And in doing this, I'm hoping to launch this new series meant to explore single great moments from actors, and it allows me to dive a little deeper than I do in my other videos. While I love the overview style of a Tough Act to Follow, this one really lets me get into the details and show why actors are even more capable than we may realize. And I'm starting by proving that Sir Christopher Lee, as Saruman the White, is one to watch. Now what I'm focusing on for this is what I call twist villains, the unexpected character turns where someone we thought was an ally is now quickly turning on our heroes. And when it's done well, this has the ability to both shock a new audience and be somewhat obvious to one who's seen it before. And I'm not talking about your Agatha Christie sort of out of left field character twists here. Good twist villains are the ones that we should see coming if we know how to look. Even from their first moments, something about them should always seem a little off. And that's what Lee does by keeping our first impressions of Saruman a little ambiguous. We're not quite sure what to think of him when we're first introduced to him.
Smoke rises from the mountain of doom. The hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard, seeking my counsel. For that is why you have come, is it not? My old friend.
What Lee does in that voiceover is he gives the character a sense of menace. He sounds both wise and intimidating, concerned yet a little eerie, very powerful but somewhat meek, and so he builds this sense of worry in us until he says, "my old friend." That's when the turn happens. His demeanor changes, and if we thought he was a villain up until this point, those words make us think that he's not hostile anymore. This lays the groundwork for what is to come while also keeping us in the dark, and it's something that Lee does so well in this scene. He walks this really fine balance between sinister and sincere, and in doing so, he makes us not quite sure what his intentions are. But we take this further because Lee is doing far more as Saruman in this scene than just sort of announcing and introducing himself. He's also reading his scene partner. He's sizing up Gandalf throughout the entire scene, because he's keeping something hidden from Gandalf, and he wants to know how much Gandalf knows about it before he gives it to him. Lee is playing with a power dynamic. Lee sees himself as above Gandalf. He's better than Gandalf, and he doesn't want Gandalf to suspect this, so he plays with Gandalf. And when Gandalf gets a little too close, he kind of gaslights him to convince Gandalf of something else.
You are sure of this?
Beyond any doubt.
So the Ring of Power has been found.
All these long years, it was in the Shire, under my very nose.
And yet you did not have the wit to see it. Your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
But we still have time. Time enough to counter Sauron if we act quickly.
See, the halfling leaf line puts Gandalf on the defense. Gandalf now has to sort of regroup and play defensively with what Saruman's tactics are. And while Saruman does this, he gets an upper hand on Gandalf. And from here we begin the descent. He starts speaking about the coming rise of Sauron, almost as a sort of warning. But as the dialogue progresses, the lines turn from warning about coming danger to an excitement about a coming opportunity. And you can see this happening slowly until the moment that he fully commits to that idea.
Great eye, lidless, wreathed in flame. The Eye of Sauron. He is gathering all evil to him. Very soon he will have summoned an army great enough to launch an assault upon Middle-earth.
You know this? How?
I have seen it.
There is so much joy in that last line. He's not ashamed or concerned or hiding a bit of what he has done. He's proud and is now completely committing to his idea. He thinks he's right, and he's working to turn Gandalf into his way of thinking. Villains have to do this. Villains have to justify what they're thinking, and he does it so well here. He doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, and he still has hope that his old friend will also see the light and join him so they can continue to work together.
They crossed the River Isen on Midsummer's Eve, disguised as riders in black.
They've reached the Shire.
They will find the ring. And kill the one who carries it.
Frodo.
And here, we now see the truth as Gandalf sees it. Saruman is lost to the darkness and has turned away from the order that Gandalf has known. He is no longer a benevolent mentor, but is something of a malicious monster. And we see Lee embodying that transformation. His focus changes. He's no longer intent on sort of being congenial with Gandalf. He's no longer hiding anything. He's completely out in the open and is giving Gandalf an ultimatum. He means business. He wants Gandalf to join him, and he's not going to take no for an answer. Join me or suffer the consequences.
He did not seriously think that a hobbit could contend with the will of Sauron. There are none who can. Against the power of Mordor, there can be no victory.
And once that turn happens, Saruman exudes his power. Gandalf is a character we've already seen to have great power, and he locks him in almost sort of a cell in this tower. And he does so hardly moving a muscle, which shows how much more powerful than Gandalf Saruman probably is. And then his plea to Gandalf turns from this menace back to sincerity. Saruman lets Gandalf into his mind a moment, and honestly tells Gandalf what he believes. And Lee does this by dropping all of that maliciousness and just reaching out with honesty he's been holding on to this whole time, and lets his sincerity out just enough that Gandalf can see that he means what he's saying.
We must join with him, Gandalf. We must join with Sauron. It would be wise, my friend.
We must join him is critical. Even if you had an idea it was coming, now you know it's out. This is Lee's full commitment. He is no longer even trying to convince us of anything else. It's out in the open. Lee has let us in with Gandalf, and we see that what he is saying is not just some musing or vague idea or something that he's been toying with. It is his truth. He believes it. He's been committed to this for a while now. This has affected his whole viewpoint. And Gandalf is now faced with the same choice that he sees in Saruman. Is Saruman a friend that he should join, or a foe that he has to deal with? And once we get to that point, then they fight. And the fight is sort of the point of no return. Gandalf's made his choice, Saruman's made his choice, and they have to clash together. And while they are sort of fighting evenly for a while, Gandalf always seems to be slightly disadvantaged. Whenever Gandalf hits hard, Saruman hits harder. And then, just when it seems like Gandalf may have gained an upper hand,
I gave you the chance of aiding me willingly, but you have elected the way of pain!
And this final step is huge, because he's taken someone that he called old friend less than 5 minutes ago and possibly killed him because of something else he believes. And Lee sells that whole journey from start to finish. We watch that entire sloping descent. He begins the scene as a friend, and he ends it as a foe, and we buy it the whole time. Well, it is certainly one villainous scene, and I have to say, it also makes Sir Christopher Lee's performance as Saruman the White one to watch. Thank you all for watching. Thanks again to Nando V Movies for helping to inspire this idea in this new series. What are some scenes that you think are absolutely perfect representations of a character or performance? Let me know in the comments below. And help me keep growing this channel by liking and subscribing. If you haven't yet, also check out my Patreon. Thanks again for watching, and as I always say, thanks for taking the time to get Ploominated.